tonight, or Justin's on?
Justin's on the screen.
Hi, Chuck.
How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you feeling?
I'm all right, I've been going.
Good, good. Did you get all your stuff back yet, or your taste and smell?
Most of it's back, yeah.
I'm gonna let myself
Yep.
at you.
Good. I'm lucky, mine was only about a
It's
week.
just not letting me log in.
Is your internet connected? My internet wasn't. I had to
Last time it was just like
reconnect it.
sensitive, because I typed it in twice and the second time it went through.
Maybe you have a magic touch. It's fine at home.
I logged in and made me put in a new password.
Okay.
So because you're on your home one, then you get here and it doesn't know to look for city instead of looking for home?
Yeah, mine usually connects automatically, but tonight I ended up restarting my computer and then reconnecting it.
It's just saying my
chart?
saying my password is incorrect, just to get in the.
Oh, your password expired,
Or
It's this
count-
and you have to create a new password.
What happens when I email? Oh, I didn't create a new password.
Oh, Julie.
Who has time to create new passwords?
Oh my! I feel like you should just rip it.
I love that.
In case anybody wants to know, it's me, John.
I stand up to do the pledge. See that part?
Yeah, I think it's this one for your
One of my drivers got
I
it
don't
for
know
me
if that's-
for a gift.
uppercase or lowercase.
I think it's uppercase.
Because this is your email password, this is your
Oh.
computer password.
Especially your
We're
passwords.
having technical difficulty.
I'm so sorry. It's start, and I can just.
Yeah, try this one.
Ready? Am I good?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to call to order the Safety Committee for Monday, January 11th,
Lunch or what?
2021.
Oh, he doesn't want to meet with us, huh?
He likes it in his office.
Yeah, I know.
Do I do this?
Caroline. Roll call.
Caroline, can you do roll call?
Sure. 2021, let's do Mr. Kasisko,
Here.
Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Hannon,
Here.
Mr. Lampa,
Here.
Mr. Rudiger,
I see what you're
Present.
saying, I
Ms.
was on the
Wagner?
wrong one.
Here.
Mrs. Field,
Present.
You can go to number 2 now.
Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. If we could stand for a moment of silence. And Mike, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 4, disposition of minutes, regular safety committee meeting of November 9th, 2020.
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, old business, there is none. 6, new business, item A, T6974, Hall Public Safety Yearly Contract, Chief Wayne.
Good evening. This is just a repeat contract that we've had for the previous 5 years to allow the mayor to sign a contract with Hall Public Safety. He is our outfitter for all police vehicles, for radios, lights, any equipment like that. They've been our vendor since 2004, have consistently come in as the lowest bid. So we'd just like to continue with that.
Any questions?
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item will be moved to tonight's full council. Number 7, citizens' comments. None. Number 8, announcements. The service committee will immediately follow this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good job.
All right. Same amount of time, Mike.
Caroline, you ready?
Second. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to call this service committee meeting tonight, Monday, January 11th. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kisisko?
Here.
Mr. Ring?
Here.
Mr. Hannan?
Here.
Mr. Lampa?
Here.
Mr. Rudiger?
Present.
Ms. Wagner?
Here.
Mrs. Field?
Present.
Disposition of minutes, there are none. Old business, item A, update on Forest Valley Development. Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you. I'm going to actually defer to Sarah. Sarah, if you would, I know you sent me an email. If you just want to go over a few things instead of me relaying everything.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Mr. Rudiger. The email I sent this morning, this was an update from the developer. Everything is basically done, with the exception of the detention ponds and the fencing that needs to go around them. The email said, and they've said off and on throughout this process that they've had a hard time getting a contractor to do what they want them to do. So they're still waiting on a quote. I don't know that they could put it in now anyway. But Matt probably knows better than that on me, but that's the nice one of us, they need to get on it and get it done.
Right.
So that's where we are. With that piece, we're done.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I had noticed also, is we're still the big hang-up seems to be the retention pond, and hopefully when the weather, I don't know if they're just going to wait until the weather breaks now, or if they're going to still continue to do what they can before that.
Right, yeah, I mean, whether or not they're issues a contractor, I don't know. I know I've heard that complaint other places with people trying to do fencing and certain building materials, but we've had long enough. This has been going on since July, so if we don't get a more positive response here in the next couple of days, like he said he would do so in that email, John, then we're going to go back and just send another email and include the bonding company representative so they know that they're driving on that issue.
Perfect. Mr. Glass, did you have something to add?
No, just that, the fencing should have been in by now. There's no excuse for it. So yeah, we'll continue to follow up and keep pushing as hard as we can.
Perfect. Ms. Prokop, did you have your hand up, or is that just on your screen? Looks like there's a hand on Missy's. Oh, it's gone. It's on my screen for some reason. Oh no, you know what? It's my cursor. Okay, never mind. Literally, it turns into a hand when the cursor goes over the Zoom box.
It's not just
It's the age of the birthday.
That's what happens when you turn 29, so. All right. Thank you for the update, and I will ask one more time that we go ahead and move this to February's service for an additional update. That's a motion.
Second.
This item will be moved to February.
Have a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will move to February service meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, item 5, new business, T6975, signal service and Lampion-Perham annual traffic signal maintenance. Mr. Miller.
Yes, this is the contract with Signal Service, we add Lampion and Perham, since they get the new signal service. It will be the new signal system. We're really talking about a warranty. It isn't a warranty for a while, but I want to both of it right now just in case we're ready to use it for anything else. But for the most part, we will use Signal Service because they're a little bit cheaper rate. But if this can get for the council, we're ready to tonight, I appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Rudiger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Miller, real quick, I do see the rates for the hours of labor. Those are just for anything not covered under the warranty?
Yes, single service is 62, another one, payroll is 75.
Right, perfect. If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second?
I have a first and second to move this to tonight's full council, and that is as emergency, correct, Mr. Miller?
Yes, please.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will be moved to tonight's full council. Item B,
Thank you.
You're welcome. T6976, annual Verizon cell phone service. Missy Prokop.
Good evening. This is also a standard request to enter into contract with Verizon to cover our wireless communication services for the city.
Any questions? Mr. Rudiger?
Do we have a copy of the contract?
So, we don't have a standard contract with Verizon. There was, I don't know, if Frank on there, he can maybe help explain. When we entered into this agreement with Verizon, it's been in place since before I started. Every time we update a phone number or someone's service, we enter into another 2-year agreement. But because we're government, we, one, get government pricing, and two, we can cancel our service with them at any time. So it's not a standard contract with Verizon, per se. Sarah, is Frank on here? You know, we talked about it.
Yeah, so what happens typically, and this is not uncommon, we get gas service, we get electric service, we have water, all those utilities you have, you don't typically have contracts with them every year. You may have had one, 20 years ago or 15 or 10 years ago, and it just keeps continuing year to year, but you budgeted for it in the budget, and we'll eventually appropriate the money for it. So that's been my experience anyway with those kinds of utility contracts.
Perfect. Okay. So, and nothing changes, Ms. Prokop?
No, nothing changes unless we add a new service that's requested by a department, but no, everything is standard and carries through year to year.
Perfect. If there's no further questions or discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second?
I have a first and second to move this to tonight's full council as emergency. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will be moved to tonight's full council. Item C, T6977, annual cleaning service contract. Mrs. Prokop.
This again is a request to, we are requesting to, we got 3 quotes. We got 2 quotes. GSI was unable to provide us a quote. The last minute, they said that they did not have enough clientele to service our city. So we've provided 2 quotes, and Coverall and RKS, who is our current provider. Mayor and I have spoken. We're okay with moving forward with RKS. They are $15,000 cheaper than the Coverall quote.
And Ms. Prokop, this is the company that we currently have that is doing all of the buildings, correct?
They are doing all of our building. I did put in the memo, just, we really moved out of Old City Hall. They have not changed our pricing in the last 6 years, and they did not give us an additional cost to clean Parks and Recreation building because it was included in our old square footage. So they have not increased our pricing in the last 6 years. I don't know why. I'm not going to ask why.
Probably in less square footage now than we were before.
Ms. Prokop, I have one more question. So if we have a need in any of our buildings, is the COVID disinfecting included in this price, or is that a la carte?
No, the biohazard is additional cost, which we did budget for a few months in 2021, but that was a separate budget in 2020 also.
Okay, perfect. I have no other questions. Any other questions?
I don't. If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second. I have a first and second to move this to tonight's full council as emergency. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will move to tonight's full council. Item D, discuss lease renewal at McMichael Professional Building. Mr. Meidinger. Yes.
Excellent. This is just for a discussion point, for a lease renewal for an additional 2 years for Parks and Rec and Senior Center of the McMichael Professional Building. The rent does go up, I believe in the memo, I stated it goes up, I think I forgot the per month basis, but it does go up $100, and that was in the original agreement that we signed a couple years.
Mr. Meidinger, I have one question on this. So this is a 2-year lease. What if in that time we do something, make a move on the City Hall, Parks and Rec Center, vice versa? Are we allowed to get out of this lease?
It is for 2 years, as far as I know. I don't know of anything else that's happening in the next foreseeable future. But I believe it'd be for the full 2 years. For the agreement.
Ms. Fields?
Thank you, Mr. Lampa. Yes, we need to probably move forward with some type of lease. I would probably be more comfortable with 1 year, but if we're being realistic, we probably do need, even if we were going to do something, 2 years is probably appropriate. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and just throw it out there that at some point in the near future, I know this past year has been unique and we haven't really attempted to move really anything forward as far as big projects, just because we weren't quite sure what this year would look like, this past year of 2020. That said, I think we really do need to look at what we're prioritizing as a city and have some type of plan. And I know since I've been on council, there's been various conversations and dialogue and even brought up on agendas before about a Parks and Rec Center or a senior center and field house. And so I think we really need to make some type of decision, and I'm not saying immediate decision, but start a process to get the ball rolling with that. And I'll just throw out there, probably a priority that I would see even before as City Hall would be a field house that would include a senior center that seniors could use, perhaps offices for our Parks and Rec department, and then our city programming could use, our wrestlers could use, our baseball teams, our soccer teams, different sports. That's kind of what I envision. And I also think in order to make it something that's really beneficial to the whole community is if we included some type of an indoor track. And I know the more we add on, the more expensive it gets, but I think if we could find something that could really be functional for a lot of people in a lot of different demographics, I think we possibly could get this going. And I don't know how, of course, we always fall back to how do we pay for something like this? And maybe we want to look at a levy of some sort. And I know that that's hard. But I also think if that's what the residents want, then we can find that out. I don't know. So those are just my thoughts on that. However, going back to this, yes, we probably do need, even though that building in hindsight is not ideal, we've already done what we've done, and so we probably need to go ahead and sign another at least 1 year lease. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Field. Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to let you know, Mr. Ring and the mayor also have their hands up.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. I was just letting you know. I agree pretty much fully with Mrs. Field on this. My initial thought was, locking us into a 2-year contract wasn't my ideal thinking, and if we could get some kind of month-to-month something. But then I started to think about it. We have put a lot of money into this building already, getting it the way that we want, and even if we do go forward with a field house or something that the whole city can use, we're talking about a lot of time of discussion, a lot of time of financing, a lot of time of planning it, and then a lot of time of building it. So we wouldn't even have something up and ready it would be more than 2 years away. So then I was thinking, well, then, there's really no sense in squabbling over a 2-year contract. Even if we did do something, we'd be over 2 years anyway, so that doesn't really make a difference. The price increase isn't really that much. I do agree with Mrs. Field also that, and obviously with everything still kind of just up in the air with COVID and everything else that's kind of going on, once things kind of get settled back down and kind of get back to a normal whatever, I would like to see this as a priority for us to discuss and maybe poll the community, and find out, what we're looking at, and maybe try to get some rough numbers together. I know we've talked about some stuff, numbers before, but really sit down and one evening hash this out. And I think something like a field house would be something the whole city would benefit from. And unlike a rec center, this is something simple that would be used very, by everyone, including our schools and seniors and everybody else. So I agree totally.
Thank you, Mr. Rudiger. I will call on Justin and Mr. Ring, and then the mayor after that.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. I was going to make a similar statement as Ms. Fielder, at least as far as Mr. Moniger, do we look at different lengths of contract? Or is 2 years just pretty much the only thing we looked at?
Yeah, this extension is built into the original contract. The original was for 3 years with a 2-year option for extension.
Okay.
So it was already built into it. We didn't have to renegotiate. All we have to do is just let them know that we would be interested in the extension. So it's not entering into a new contract. It's just, I guess, approving that extension.
All right, thank you. Well, without knowing what we want to do or where we're going to go, I would always be more comfortable with a year by year. But as Mr. Whittaker said, even if we start right now planning something to where we can move Parks and Rec, in reality, that's not going to happen for quite some time. So I'm comfortable with the 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Ring.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Justin and John, you guys know that, even if we started tomorrow, another place that we would have liked to, it's going to take 2 years before we get something in the roof. I think 2 years is the right amount of time to sign on this. Unless you're not going any longer, but 2 years would be more than adequate. We couldn't get something off the ground in 2 years. And we have this discussion quite frequently, and at some point in time, here about the middle of April, the fire station is going to be completed, and we're going to have a big open lot down there. We have a lot of options available to us, and at some point in time, we're going to take the bull by the horns in collaboration with council and the administration and figure out what the heck we're going to do. So, that's there for the discussion. So, there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hannon, and then I'll get to me.
Thank you. I think this is, I remember it being built into the original contract because we had a different plan at the time, so I'm comfortable with the 2 years as well. I always share the council agendas on Facebook, and today a couple of the seniors that follow the discussion board put their 2 cents on my post, and they're like, well, I don't go to the senior center because it's not big enough. So I don't know how to get the opinions of seniors if they're not going to the senior center, and like what exactly we need, when we do build, because I don't know, I haven't been to the senior center when it was open, but, Mike, you said that, there's like 10 or 12 people, do we build for 10 or 12 people, or do we build for, 50 people on a daily basis? So I don't know if there's a way that we can kind of connect with the community, maybe put out a survey or something, because it's just frustrating, because like some of these people are like, well, there's so many empty buildings in town. You guys, like the one person said, there's so many empty buildings in town. Why don't you just go rent the old John Eagle? I'm like, okay, well, we rented this space. We put the money into it, and
Right.
It's better than nothing. So, I don't know. I guess it's just frustrating, but I definitely think it's worth having the conversation and seeing exactly what we need, because I would envision something with, the Parks and Rec and the Senior Center together. But I just wanted to throw that out there, so
Thank you, Mr. Hannan. I'm going to add one further thing to Mr. Hannan's comment. Somebody had posted that they went to a pancake breakfast there, and the kitchen was so small that it was just so crowded, and with COVID now, obviously we can't do that because we have to separate. But Mr. Meitinger, how many people are currently going to the senior center?
So the attendance is very sparse, again, with COVID and the restrictions that we have. I've been doing the activities coordinator. She's been implementing line dancing and some other small social gathering programs. On Mondays we do have the bread and the other things that we have continually done. But the statements that you guys have seen online and that we just talked about are correct. Our facility just isn't big enough for large gatherings and things that people want to do in a senior center or an activity center. It's not big enough. So that's our biggest hurdle we have.
Thank you, Mr. Meitinger. And then just the last comment one person had was, if we build it, they will come. And that's a good point. So we might want to think about that. Mr. Kosciuszko.
Well, first of all, I'm against the field house personally. I've mentioned this many times before. I'd like to see an incorporation with City Hall, and by the way, I'd like to see City Hall right where the old City Hall was. We've got plenty of property there. We own it. We don't have to look for another place. And again, we've got enough room there to build it, along with a senior center and a few other things that we could add to it. As far as this lease, could probably wait for its year lease, and we'd still be talking about it. I don't know if we're going to come to an agreement the next 2 to 4 years on a whole project, where we're going to get the money, where we're going to build, and how big, and so forth. Personally, like I said, I'm really strong on this particular feeling that I'd like to see it where it's at. Keep the whole complex together with the fire department. And again, we own the property. And I just feel that there's enough room there for what's needed as a field house, but not a field house, but incorporated with the City Hall. Let's stay where we're at, we own it, and I think we'll save a lot of money doing that, which is going to be another issue we need to come up with, where we're going to get the money. And the last thing I hate to hear is that, we're going to come up with another taxation for the folks at Streetsboro. There may not be a lot of it, but if there's anything we can do to stay away from that, I think they're pretty well taxed out at this point with the fire station. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kosciuszko. Mr. Rudiger, did you have any further?
Yeah, just real quick, kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Hannan, you said. Mr. Hannan said, do we build for 10, do we build for 50? And you said, if they build it, they will come. And my just quick thought is, there's not a big attendance now. Even at the old City Hall, there wasn't a big attendance. But a small thing, it was pretty much cards, there was a pool table, that was it. If we incorporated it with something, if we did do something like a field house and an indoor walking track, we could have some other activities, I think we'd get a bigger attendance. And then I mean, obviously, all that stuff's for discussion later, and then for what Mr. Kazisko said, we also own a lot of property over by the police station, so that's just an idea. But, I mean, that's a discussion for a totally different night, and there's a Buckeyes game on tonight.
Yep.
So I'm done.
Just really quick, I think one thing that I envision if we do go the route of a field house would be, the rooms would be multi-purpose rooms. So we wouldn't necessarily build just for the seniors and how many would attend. We would have a room large enough that seniors could use it, and then perhaps it could be used for something else.
Party room or.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So anyway,
Kitchen, yeah.
thank you.
All right, can I get a motion?
Mr. Hannon, did you have something?
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna add on, like I had mentioned, you know, how do we pay for it? You know, obviously the seniors want something, but, you know, they're the ones that are always, you know, taxed as well, so, I just forgot to add that part on there. They were talking about how we would fund it on the post, so. But I mean, I don't necessarily think we need to move this item, but I mean, maybe we can put something on in a couple months to discuss. Maybe behind the scenes, a couple of us can get together or something and talk about.
Definitely worth talking about.
I mean, I don't wanna,
Maybe
obviously,
July,
we have-
August.
we have like a 2-year plan, you know, 2 years to, I guess, come up with, if we're gonna stay in that building, so maybe we can, you know, jump on it before, you know, a year goes by and then we start talking about it.
Okay. I think we can just move on.
Don't I need a motion?
Nope, because there's nothing, it's just up for discussion, so.
Oh,
I
it's
think
discussed, no.
I think we can, yeah, we can just,
All right. Item number 6, citizens' comments. Seeing none, item 7, announcements, the regular council meeting will immediately follow this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
You think I need to let Matt Glass back in, or?
What?
I'll let him in.
I don't know if he needs to or not. I don't know if they talked about it. I know he was looking at it and trying to draft some stuff for it. I just talked to him before the end of the year.
Not you, John, another John. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah, the end of 2020 before the holiday. You ready? I'd like to call this regular council meeting of Monday, January 11, 2021 to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Kazisko?
Here.
Mr. Ring?
Here.
And Mr. Hannon?
Here.
Mr. Lampa?
Here.
Mr. Rudiger?
Present.
Ms. Wagner?
Here.
Mrs. Field?
Present.
Item 3, disposition of minutes, regular council meeting of December 28, 2020.
Motion to accept?
Second?
We have a first and a second to accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are accepted. Item 4, citizens' comments. Item 5, reports, communications from departments, boards, and commissions. Chief Reinhold? I think you're muted.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
He's still going.
Chief Reinholds? You're on mute.
Thank you. You hear me now?
There we go.
I'll make this even shorter now. We just wanted a part-timer today for our ranks. We're scheduled for a second vaccination in another couple weeks. Everyone should have received the social media calendar that Captain Will put out. This is where we go month by month, trying to anticipate the seasons for that. And the other thing I have is the run information. Interesting that usually we only talk about what our losses were, and if you look on the back of the 14th through the 31st, on the bottom there, we had a total property loss of about $110,000. But once we evaluated the property to what it was worth, actually we saved $831,000 worth of property. Just a different way of looking at it, so we only had a loss of approximately 12% for all the different incidents we responded to, and I have to tip my hat to the troopers for doing a good job. Well, like I said, we were still there last year, we had 50 less than the year before, and when COVID first started, our run volume went down. People weren't calling us. They were going to the centers, going to their doctors. Now it's up. As a matter of fact, I just went on COVID today. Last day I went on COVID. For whatever reason, these people are having respiratory problems, and we're bringing them in. Hi, Mr. Ray.
Hi, Mr. Chief Riddle. Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Chief, I just wanted to comment on, your comment on the runs. I unfortunately had to call a squad for myself about a week and a half ago. And I can tell you the response was fantastic. The guys were extremely professional. They were thorough, made me feel, I guess, I don't want to say better, but made me feel like I was in good hands. And I want to thank you and the whole team for that professionalism. It was a very good experience. So, and for what I was going through, it was much of a good experience as it could have been, so.
Exactly. Well, the last thing was just the construction meeting, we did a walkthrough, and it's really moving around. But the only thing I'm going to notice up, the opening date is approximately April 17th. That's that ephes they put on the outside of the building, with that 50-degree weather. So if anyone holds us up, it'll be the ephes. So we'll start planning a grand opening, and Hammond Construction actually has a PR division that can help us plan all the things for ribbon cutting. They have experience where this is our first time to cut the ribbon. So I'm looking forward to the spring, and when we open up the station and we move in, and things move forward. And that's all I have.
Mr. Hammond.
Thank you. Mr. Lampo.
May I ask,
Yep.
Chief? Hey, Chief, it's Mr. Lampa. I had a couple seniors reach out to me and ask if they will be notified when the vaccine's available and where they can go get it administered. Are we going to do something like that for our own city?
Yeah, well, when you're looking at the health department, supposedly categorized 1A, 1B, 1C. They have EMS and healthcare professionals. We're trying to convince them to include the police department. We consider it an essential service. And we're making some resistance with the health department. So that's all going with the police department. But after that, they trained all of us. Part of our training is to give the shot. So once they figure out we have the vaccinations, we can set things up. The only problem is we've got to make sure we keep the vaccination cortisol. We can only have so many vaccinations at one time. But the county's working on the county now. We're looking at the second shot, and then moving forward, we've the drugstore, CVS, are taking care of nursing homes, and hopefully they'll realize we need to get the police department in there, and then, start going by the seniors with their age group. The older you are, the higher the risk factor you are. And that's what's being worked out right now at the health department.
Okay, and so
We'll put it out on the website.
Communicate that?
For the seniors. Pardon?
Will Mr. Grimm communicate that?
Well, actually, we'll communicate that. We'll communicate that on our websites and get it out to the public.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Anybody else?
That's all I have.
Bill Miller?
We did have a little hiccup in them, we wrote them on the 31st, it didn't take, we couldn't get the computer software work together, so we rewrote them on the 4th. So the date on the bill will be the 4th, but they didn't go out today, and I appreciate it, when you receive them, if you can let me know how fast they get in. The mail in Kent is gonna do it the same way we did the last time. So hopefully we'll see the bonds within 2 or 3 days.
Awesome. And let's hope that people pay online.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Anybody else?
That's all.
Chief Lane?
Just in the interest of Scarlett and Graham, and make it super quick, I want to mention that we had one of our officers honored tonight with the CIT Officer of the Year, which is a great award for him to receive for all the extra work he's put in the mental health field. We're going to be back up to full staffing in about 2 weeks. We just got the clearance to swear in the last replacement that we need to get us back up to full staff. He'll be coming in with about 15 years full-time experience, so really looking forward to getting the added experience that he'll bring in. And as the fire chief mentioned, our department, along with the rest of police departments, have been bumped out of the vaccination list. So we're going to be continuing the extra protocols that we have been in dealing with the public and limiting our contact with the public in order to try and keep the department as safe and healthy and up and running as possible.
Thank you, Chief. Did we want to bring that officer in to recognize them?
Yeah, who was
I'm
it?
sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Did we want to bring that officer in to recognize them for the award?
We can. They had an award meeting this evening just prior to a council meeting. They did a virtual award ceremony for it, so he received his plaque, and then we'll put something out on our social media as well.
She doesn't even want
Who
to
was it?
name tonight?
Josh Bartholomew?
Okay.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if he doesn't want to come in, maybe if he can zoom in next meeting or something, and we can honor him, congratulate him.
Definitely.
Probably deliver a couple babies and see if you
All right, thank you. Anybody else? No? All right, moving on. Item 6, introduction of legislation containing statement of emergency. T6971, provide for the issuance and sale of bonds for the service garage. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $815,000 for the purpose of paying costs of constructing, equipping, furnishing, and otherwise improving a new municipal service garage and improving the site thereof, together with the necessary appurtenances thereto, and such other costs of those improvements as are permitted by revised code section 133.15, to be funded from the proceeds and securities, and declaring an emergency to enable the city to retire the outstanding notes and thereby preserve its credit.
Motion to suspend? Second.
For first and a second to suspend, can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kosisco?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kosisco?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6971 becomes ordinance 2021-01. T6972, provide for the issuance and sale of the bond for the fire station. Can you please read by title?
This is an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $5,440,000 for the purpose of paying costs of constructing, equipping, furnishing, and otherwise improving a new municipal fire station and improving the site thereof, together with the necessary appurtenances thereto, and such other costs of those improvements as are permitted by revised code section 133.15, to be funded from the proceeds of securities, and declaring an emergency to enable the city to retire the outstanding notes and thereby preserve its credit.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kosisco?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kosisco?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6972 becomes ordinance 2021-02. T6973, annual CMI software and hardware maintenance fees. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with Creative Microsystems, Inc., doing business as CMI, for the purchase of computer, server, hardware, and software maintenance services for the finance and water departments during 2021, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second.
First and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6973 becomes ordinance 2021-03. T6974, all public safety yearly contract. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with Hall Public Safety Company, Inc. for the purchase of the city's requirements for public safety vehicle upfit, equipment, maintenance, repairs, and modifications during 2021, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second.
A first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Justin?
You're on mute.
On mute.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Okay. Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
A first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6974 becomes ordinance 2021-04. T6975, signal service and Rampion Param annual traffic signal maintenance. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with Signal Service Company, Inc. and Lampion Companies, a subsidiary of Param Electric, Inc., for the purchase of the city's annual requirements for maintenance and repairs to the city's traffic signal system during 2021, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second.
First and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6975 becomes ordinance 2021-05. T6976, annual Verizon cell phone service. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Verizon Wireless Services LLC for cellular, telephone, and wireless data communication services for the various departments of the city during 2021, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second.
The first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6976 becomes ordinance 2021-06. T6977, annual cleaning service contract. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept the quote of and enter into an agreement with RKS Management, Inc. to provide cleaning services to city buildings, and declaring an emergency in order to expedite the agreement and prevent a lapse in service.
Motion to suspend?
Second.
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6977 becomes ordinance 2021-07. Item 7, first reading, there are none. Item 8, second reading, T6967, amend section 121.07 relating to council compensation. Can you read by title, please?
An ordinance amending section 121.07 of Part 1, Title 3, Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances relating to council compensation and declaring an emergency to comply with the city charter requirements.
T6968, annual authorization to purchase replacement water lines and repair parts. Can you read by title?
Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with various vendors for the purchase of the city's requirements for water line replacement and repair parts during 2021.
Thank you. T6969, annual authorization to purchase hydrant replacement and repair parts. Can you read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with various vendors for the purchase of the city's requirements for fire hydrant replacement and repair parts during 2021.
Thank you. T6970, authorization for 2021 asphalt preservation program.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with various vendors for the purchase of asphalt paving products and incidental paving services necessary for the city's 2021 asphalt preservation program.
Thank you. Item 9, third reading. T6950, amend code regarding building inspections and related fees. Can you please read by title?
This is an ordinance amending sections 1305.03 and 149.04 of the codified ordinances of the city of Streetsboro relating to building inspections and related fees.
Motion to adopt? Second?
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Lampa?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kosiska?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6950 becomes ordinance 2021-08. Item 10, mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. As you can see by Jenny's report that she came in and got out on January 2nd, we ended up the year in pretty good shape. I know that there were some things that, could have been better, but talking to other mayors in the area, cities and villages and things like that, we fared very well compared to others. I think that the diversity that we have in our taxpaying public, with the manufacturing and the service industries, really helped us to come out of last year pretty good. I'm very pleased with the way that we ended up. And we will continue to monitor and continue to watch what we do with our money and be diligent in our spending. But I was very pleased overall with the way that the city ended up last year. That's it.
I agree. Thank you, sir. All right, item 11, President and Council comments. I don't have much. Want to wish happy birthday to Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you.
Also, congrats to the Browns on their first playoff victory in a while. The last time they won a playoff game, I was, I think, like 2 months old, so I've literally waited my whole life to see that. Hopefully, the Buckeyes complete a good weekend of football here in Ohio. I remember one of my first council meetings, it was Ohio State was playing, and you guys were trying to get out of here. I was sitting in the audience. It was like a 30-minute meeting, and I definitely thought the council meetings were going to be a lot shorter during my time on council, but
Like, oh, these are quick.
we just need to get the Buckeyes to make it to the championship every year. So we at least have one really short meeting in January. But other than that, that's all I have. I'll move on to council member comments, and I'll start with Mr. Ring.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. I'd also like to extend birthday wishes to Mr. Rudiger. Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir.
And just go Buckeyes.
Thank you. Ms. Wagner.
Happy birthday, Mr. Rudiger, and go Bucks.
And thank you for the gift. Those are
Oh,
awesome.
you're welcome.
That's awesome.
Mr. Lampa.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you.
Just a heads up for council that John Hannon and I are meeting with Rachel Miller from Parks and Recs. With the new city website, we are now able to put out a city newsletter.
Oh, cool.
So I talked to John about it, and I think that by the end of January, we're shooting for like a year in review, since the mayor gave us kudos and we're doing well. Why not celebrate that with a city newsletter? The other thing is, I had sent out the Google Analytics for our city website, and I was very happy to see 700 people had logged onto the site, or actually went to the site. The next report I will provide will be what pages they're going to.
Is that 700 unique or 700
Unique.
total? Nice.
And if you did not know, on the bottom of the website, on the home page, there is a subscribe button, so you can subscribe to Parks and Recs and city newsletters. And then lastly, I did talk to the building department today, and they are pretty much blown away with how much people are going online and registering, like contractors and things like that. They're very happy because they just get the email and it's all done. People are paying online, and I think this is what we wanted to accomplish, and we did. So congratulations to all. That's it.
Thank you. So with the newsletter, I guess this is a conversation that we can have is maybe with the mayor, but I would love to see like a mayor council newsletter type, just to get us engaged more with the community, and maybe like I know I talked to Mr. Amalia at one point, and he had mentioned doing a newsletter for, get some businesses involved with that. So I definitely think that's a great tool for us to have. Mr. Kosisco.
20 years ago, I got my first computer. I can't believe we are where we are today. It's amazing. And it took me about 6 months to learn how to use that computer. And it was, of course, a little simpler at the time. But I am amazed at you folks that have taken the reins. Like Mike, you did a great job. You and the folks that worked with you to get this thing put together. It's amazing what I've seen.
Thank you.
I hate to think what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years from now. But remember, I was around before they had cell phones, and they just had a dial phone and so forth. And I've seen a lot come through.
The question is your wife going to pay the bill online?
I don't know. I've got to ask her. She takes care of the money, so I don't pay any attention. Thank you anyway.
You're welcome.
I'm done. Thank
Mr.
you.
Kosisco, it's good to see you in person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a while
Appreciate
since
it.
you've been here, and it's good to see you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for all the birthday wishes, everybody here, everybody online, everybody who's sent me anything that's awesome. Can't believe I'm 29 again. Go Browns, go Bucks, ready to go.
Motion to adjourn? Oh, sorry. I'm like all excited.
Yeah, just happy birthday, Mr. Rudiger. You do just seem to get younger and younger the last decade we've
crazy.
been working
You
together.
too. That's
It's
crazy.
incredible. But yeah, everyone have a great evening, and go Bucks.
Thank you.
We'll be 25 soon.
Yeah.
Item 13, announcements. City Hall will be closed Monday, January 18th, 2021 for Martin Luther King Day. And there'll be a finance committee and regular council meeting on Monday, January 25th.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody, nice work.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Go Bucks.
Take care, Chuck.
Go Bucks, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Browns.
Good night.
I'm actually going to watch it. That's the funny thing.